Today on Steelers Talk, I'm going to be breaking down 8 college quarterbacks that are draft eligible that I could see the Pittsburgh Steelers taking in round 1 of next year's NFL draft. Now, make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already, if you want more 2026 QB draft target videos like the one we're doing today. If you guys want this type of content, you want to be kept up to date on which college quarterbacks are playing well, which ones maybe aren't doing so well, and kind of go over which options the Steelers will have at their disposal next spring. Make sure you click that thumbs up icon for college football analysis here on Steelers Talk. So just in general, guys, before we get into the list, I want to kind of share my take on this year's class. And to me, there hasn't been like a slam dunk number 1 overall type of guy at this point. Maybe that guy will emerge, but to this point, through the first 5 weeks of college football, that hasn't happened. But there's a lot of quarterbacks that could go in round 1. And I think that that's some really good news for the Pittsburgh Steelers and their fans, guys, because the Steelers, in my opinion, are not going to be drafting high to take, like a Jaden Daniels level quarterback or a Caleb Williams type of guy in the top 5 of the NFL draft. I think they're going to be somewhere sitting in the late teens or somewhere in the 20s, hopefully in the 30s, but we won't get ahead of ourselves here, guys. And if there's a lot of QBs in this class, like maybe 3-4 guys that could go anywhere between 16 and 32, that's going to be good for the Steelers because they're going to have options and they're going to be able to trade up for somebody if there's somebody in particular that they really like. So I do think the Steelers will have options to go out and get a quarterback next year's NFL draft. Today we're going to be talking about 8 quarterbacks that could be the draft pick in round 1 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we'll start here with kind of the guy that is still kind of being projected as the first quarterback off the board in most mock drafts, redshirt junior out of South Carolina, LaNorris Sellers, all right? And a CBS mock draft just came out this week having him as the number 1 pick to the New Orleans Saints. And listen, man, Sellers hasn't had a terrific start to the season. He just hasn't. He still has issues with accuracy at times. He still has trouble getting through reads at times. He's just inconsistent. And we have seen this kind of mold of quarterback, Trey Lance, Anthony Richardson fail at the NFL level really recently, but we've also seen some of these kind of super physically gifted but raw quarterback prospects develop into superstars like Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. Some of the best quarterbacks in the league came into the league as viewed as super raw prospects that ended up developing. So you just can't teach Sellers his tools, and that's what makes him a first-round draft prospect, guys. He's probably better suited to go to a team that can develop him, sit for maybe a year, where he can learn from a veteran quarterback, and he can kind of develop in that way before he takes the reins. But his ability to run with the football, his contact balance as a quarterback is special. His big play-making ability and his pocket presence can really lead to some really incredible plays. And, of course, he's got the arm strength as well. So he's got the size, he's got the rushing ability, he's got the arm strength, he's got some of the things you can't teach, like playmaking instincts and pocket presence. So he's got the makeup of a future superstar quarterback that can really elevate and carry an NFL franchise for a decade plus. So that is what's going to make him somebody that's very intriguing at the top of mock drafts heading into next year's draft. But in order for Pittsburgh to have a shot at him, plain and simply, guys, because of the level of talent he brings to the table, Sellers really has to underperform. And he has to be viewed as a very raw quarterback prospect for the Steelers to have even a chance to get their mitts on him, all right? If Sellers has a good season this year, he's going to be a bona fide top 5 pick, plain and simply, okay? So for him to fall into the teens and even into the low 20s, he's going to have to not play too well. And good for Steelers fans, he really hasn't to start this season, but that's going to have to continue. And then also, he's going to have to come out. He can still go back for another year because he's a redshirt junior. So there's a lot of things that need to go right for the Steelers to have a shot at Sellers, but he is exactly Mike Tomlin's type, all right? We know Mike Tomlin loves these big, fast, physically gifted type of dudes. And also, I think Pittsburgh would be like a perfect situation for Sellers. That is, if Aaron Rodgers decides to come back for another season. Rodgers has continuously hinted after on Pat McAfee's show saying that this would probably be his final year. Ever since he got to Latrobe in training camp, he has been laying down hint after hint that he could be coming back for another season here in Pittsburgh. And listen, man, if the Steelers make the playoffs and they're a good football team and they come up like just short of the Super Bowl, then I think that Rodgers could very well come back and play with Cam Hayward for one more season. If that's the case, bringing in a guy like Sellers, who's super physically gifted but probably needs a year to sit behind a veteran, what other mentor could you ask for a young quarterback than one of the smartest quarterbacks in NFL history? And by the way, Jordan Love, Will Howard, bunch of young quarterbacks, Zach Wilson, that have been tutored under Aaron Rodgers' mentorship, just rave about how he is as a leader, how he is as a mentor. He's always there to help the younger quarterback. So I can't think of a better mentor for the future franchise quarterback of this team than Aaron Rodgers. And if you can somehow get LaNorris Sellers here to Pittsburgh for a year to learn from him, I think that's the best possible situation for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So predict it for me down there in the comment section. Who will be the first quarterback taken in this year's class? Will it be LaNorris Sellers? Will it be somebody else? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section for today's pin question. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds, and when that happens, take advantage of that time. But let me know who the first quarterback off the board is going to be next spring. Then we get to the next guy that's usually up next in these mock drafts and in these big boards right now, and it's Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza. Like Sellers, he is a redshirt junior, so he could go back to school if he wants, but right now he is getting a lot of buzz, a lot of people even saying he is QB1 in this year's class. And listen, man, the arm talent is certainly there with Mendoza. Now, it's not the most elastic arm in the world, and what I mean by that is like the side arms and all these different types of crazy arm angles. He's more of a traditional passer, a little bit stiffer as a passer, but he can freaking spin it, man. The rotations that he can put on the football, the velocity that he can throw with, the touch that he can throw to the middle of the field, he can fit it into tight windows, and he's put that on full display so far this year with the Hoosiers. And honestly, he reminds me a lot of Jared Goff, all right? Goff is not the most mobile guy in the world. He's more of a true pocket passer. That's how I view Mendoza. A little bit stiffer, but has a rocket of an arm, can make incredible throws to every level of the field, over the middle, all these different things. Mendoza reminds me a lot of Goff. And hey, if you get a Jared Goff out of Fernando Mendoza, and you get the production that Jared Goff has put up specifically over the last several years in Detroit, not to mention what he did in his early years with Sean McVay in L.A., I think that's a pretty good investment with a first-round pick. And now I do have two concerns with Mendoza. The first one is he doesn't have a ton of structure, out-of-structure playmaking ability. Once he's under pressure, he has to leave the pocket. I wouldn't say that is like a huge strength to his game. He's also not like a fantastic rusher of the football. And then also, Indiana runs a really college-y style, RPO-heavy offense. So, they played Illinois, and I think he only had 2 incompletions. Most of his throws in that game were RPOs, all right? So he's really good at reading out that RPO game, but there's not a whole lot of true progression passing in that Indiana offense, and there's going to be a lot of that once he gets to the NFL. So I don't know exactly how ready he is to take on a pro-style offense, especially going into year one, but he certainly has the arm talent to be a future starting quarterback and a very productive one at that. And because of that, I would take him in round 1. Right now, if the season ended today, I would have a round 1 grade on him. I would gladly take him with the Steelers' first-round draft pick if he's available. He's got a strong arm, so he can play in the AFC North, all those things. And by all accounts, he's a great leader and worker there with the Indiana Hoosiers program. So certainly a name to keep your eye on there. But honestly, if he continues to play as well as he is at Indiana, the Steelers probably won't even have a chance to take him. Then we get to Dante Moore, the redshirt sophomore out of Oregon. He is somebody that is a very, very talented passer. Former 5-star quarterback. He's got a very easy release. One of the most easy releases you're ever going to see. He plays with really calm footwork, and that really is the epitome of what he is as a passer. He just brings a lot of poise and calm to the position, and that's exactly what you want. I mean, he goes in to the whiteout at Penn State, maybe the hardest road environment to go into, and he delivers some really crazy great plays out of structure. I love his out-of-structure playmaking ability. I thought that the Oregon offense honestly didn't call a great game in that football game, and he bailed them out multiple times with sidearm passes and all these different things. And we've seen some really good mental processing stuff and true drop-back passing game so far this season there at Oregon. So I'm really intrigued by Dante Moore. He's another guy that could be the first quarterback taken, depending on how his season goes here. He brings the whole package to the table as far as I'm concerned. Then we get to John Mateer, another redshirt junior here from Oklahoma. And this guy has a lot of buzz surrounding him because of the crazy arm strength, and he can throw with a super elastic arm, throwing sidearm passes. In fact, that's how he throws most of his passes. And then not only that, but he can run with the football, man. And he is a dog competitor. You can see it when he takes it for a 20-yard run. He gets up screaming. You love that energy that he brings to the table. I think that he is one of the most fun quarterbacks in the country to watch. This is why he was really at the top of the Heisman leaderboard before he had that thumb injury that's going to be taking him out here for at least another week. But Mateer is super fun to watch. Big arm, really good as a rusher as well. Has some really great flashes of anticipation as well, which is what you want to see from a future quarterback prospect going into the NFL. But he needs more consistency with his accuracy, specifically with overthrows. All right, is a big, big issue with John Mateer. And in the NFL, and really at any level of football, if you're overthrowing a ball thrown over the middle of the field, it's going to go right to a safety, all right? And that's going to be an interception. And that is the last thing that Mike Tomlin wants here in Pittsburgh, right? So he's got to find a way to get a little bit more consistent with his stroke. But if he can do that and he can put together a really good end to his college season here, with Boomer Sooner, he's absolutely going to be a first-round pick, and he might even be in consideration for the Pittsburgh Steelers next spring. So make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon. We're halfway through our list today, but if you're enjoying today's video, you like this in-depth coverage for the Pittsburgh Steelers every single day, make sure you click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. All right, so now let's get to Sam Leavitt, the redshirt junior out of Arizona State, and he is somebody that has a lot of talent. He's got a very elastic arm. He can throw with a bunch of different arm angles. He's got a very quick release. He's got really great pocket presence and playmaking instincts out of structure. And then, he can run with the football too, man. He can juke. He can make some moves and make guys miss in space. And, I really loved his performance versus TCU this past week, where he is just an absolute dog competitor. It's a close football game, and he found a way to win the game. Of course, it helps when you have Jordan Tyson, maybe the best receiver in college football right now, playing for the Arizona Sun Devils, and to throw it up to him. He's got a really good deep ball as well, guys, with a lot of touch on it. I really like Sam Leavitt's skill set, and he has all the tools to be a first-rounder. He's got a fiery competitive edge. He's got a really strong arm that he can throw with a bunch of different arm angles. He's got really great pocket presence to be really great out of structure playmaker, and he can run with the football. But kind of like John Mateer, he needs more consistency. All right, like sometimes he can just make some of the most boneheaded decisions that you'll ever see with the football, and sometimes the accuracy isn't always there, and sometimes the footwork and the base is not always consistent, and he'll bounce in the pocket and be really toesy. He just needs to get a little bit more of that consistency. And he might be another guy that if he comes out this year, he could use a year on the bench to learn from a veteran and kind of hone his skill set for an NFL offense. But there's certainly a lot of talent there. And by the way, the Pittsburgh Steelers have been giving Sam Leavitt a lot of scouting attention. I think they've gone to every single one of Arizona State's games this year. They've attended Arizona State practices. Like, they are doing their homework on this quarterback class, and it seems like they're really honing in on Sam Leavitt in particular. But then somebody that has really surprised me this year, guys, and might be kind of the out-of-nowhere quarterback that goes in round one this season, is Ty Simpson from Alabama. Now, Simpson's another guy that could return for another year, but he might be the most pro-ready quarterback playing in college football right now. They're playing a very pro-style offense with lots of progression reads, full-field reads there at Alabama, and you just don't see quarterbacks that, put the kind of production that he's been putting up while running a full field progression style offense. I mean, he is completing nearly 70% of his passes, and Ryan Williams, if I'm not mistaken, he's right at the top of of college football right now in drop passes. Against Georgia, he had 5 drop passes in that football game, and he was still able to get 3 total touchdowns against the Bulldogs on the road. He's having over 280 yards passing per game. He has 11 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. He's added 2 touchdowns on the ground, and he has a passer rating of 173.1. And listen, man, like when you look at the footwork, when you look at the mental processing ability to go full field progression reads in college, all right, the pocket presence to step up, throw the ball over the middle of the field with anticipation. There's nobody in college football right now playing a pro-style offense at the level that Ty Simpson is right now at Alabama. And listen, man, if Arch Manning was playing the way that Ty Simpson's playing right now, he'd be the bona fide number one pick, and he'd probably be the Heisman favorite. All right, and the same thing goes for the guys that were expected to be, first-round picks heading into the year. Drew Allar, Garrett Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik. If any of these guys were putting up the stat line that Ty Simpson's putting out right now in the film that Ty Simpson is putting out there, if any of those guys were playing as well as Ty Simpson is right now, they would be the bona fide favorite to go number one in the draft this year. But because Ty Simpson, hasn't played college football, this is his first year starting, he's kind of seen as somebody that's not a good quarterback for some reason. A lot of people don't have him in the first round of mock drafts. And I think as the season goes on and Ty Simpson continues to play well, I don't think there's going to be any denying him, man. I think that he could win the Heisman this year if he continues this. I think that he could be maybe even the first quarterback taken because he's a former 5-star athlete. He's got a really good arm, and I think that he, out of all these quarterbacks today that we're going to be talking about, he might be the number one guy on my list. Where if I asked a college quarterback to play in the NFL right now, I think Ty Simpson is probably my choice. So take your shot down there in the comment section. Which quarterback is going to be coming out of nowhere to be taken in round one this year? For me, I think it's Ty Simpson. He was not even on most people's radar to start this season, and you can make an argument he's having the best season out of any college football quarterback to start the year. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. And now, like I said, guys, if Pittsburgh needs a day one starter, I think Simpson would probably be my guy there. I think that, the Steelers could certainly use somebody, especially if Aaron Rodgers retires. They're going to have a good football team. So they're going to want somebody that can go in there, operate under center and all these different things. And there might not be an SEC quarterback that plays more under center football than Ty Simpson, and he does it at a super high level. So, this is certainly somebody that I'm keeping my eye on. But then to finish out our list here, two guys that have, in my opinion, underperformed this year. We'll start with Garrett Nussmeier, who is a redshirt senior, so he's a bit older. He was another guy that waited a long time for his turn, had a really good season last year at LSU, decides to come back for another season, and it just hasn't been as good as last year, just plain and simply. I think, he definitely sees the game like a pro quarterback. He can go through full field progression reads. He can diagnose a defense pre-snap pretty consistently, and he uses the Cognize VR technology that Jaden Daniels uses, and he used back at LSU and what helped him transform his football journey. So he's certainly somebody that if you draft him, you can get that new school technology here in Pittsburgh, and that can benefit not just him, but any other quarterbacks that come through the program here with the Steelers moving forward. But Nussmeier does predetermine a lot of his throws based on the pre-snap look. He will kind of predetermine where he's throwing it, which leads to a lot of really bad decisions. And, the post-snap processor needs some work, in my opinion, and then he's lost some accuracy, particularly to the deep portion of the field. And obviously in this Steelers offense, they want to be able to throw the ball down the field off of play action. That's a big part of the scheme here, with the run game hopefully developing into what we hope it is. So if you're looking for somebody to fit inside an Arthur Smith offense in particular, he's going to have to get a lot better throwing the ball down the field. Now, another guy here that I still think is going to be in the first round discussion, he needs to get a lot better though, is Drew Allar. Right now, I think if the season ended today, he would not be a first-round pick. I think he'd be more like a Will Levis type of guy or a Malik Willis type of guy where he's got physical talent, but I think he'd probably go on day two. And, we just have to acknowledge reality when it comes to Drew Allar. It just hasn't been that great, especially against good competition. He had a really good fourth quarter against Oregon. He showed some moxie there, but then he throws an interception in overtime. And, it just doesn't seem like he's got that, ability in him, or at least not to this point in his college career, to win big games. And like the Steelers want to be in a lot of big games. You want somebody that can go out there and play his best when the game is on the line, kind of like Dante Moore did in that whiteout game. But with Drew Allar, it's definitely still the case that he's got the arm talent. He's got the ability to make plays, incredible throws with a super elastic arm. That deep ball that he threw for a touchdown against Oregon was absolutely beautiful. And there's still a lot of season left, all right? At this point last year, people were saying Drew Allar sucks as well. And then by the end of the season, people were like, hey, this guy is actually playing pretty well down the stretch. So, if he can get better and if he can finish his season strong, we saw it with C.J. Stroud, right? C.J. had a very up and down college career, and then he finished it off extremely strong with that performance against the Georgia Bulldogs, and then boom, he has a bunch of arm talent. He was a highly touted prospect, very physically talented guy, has a great combine, all this stuff, and he's a top 2 pick. So, it's still too early to determine where Drew Allar his fate is going to be, but because he is a senior, he is going to be going into the draft this year. So for his sake, I hope he can turn it around in a hurry. So who's your guy? Let me know down there in the comment section. Which quarterback are you hoping that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to draft next spring? Are you a Mendoza guy? Are you a LaNorris Sellers guy? Are you like me and think Ty Simpson should be in the first round conversation right now? Let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section. And that'll be it for today's edition of Steelers Talk. Again, guys, like today's video. If you want to see more 2026 NFL Draft QB videos here on Steelers Talk throughout the college football season, again, make sure you click that subscribe button for that content when it comes out. And until next time, here we go, Steelers.